after that, pretty much everyone cleared out of the theater, and we were like, well, we bought double feature tickets. Let's, I don't know what Sitting Pretty is. So the reason that this was a double feature is that Sitting Pretty, let me get the movie and not the TV show that was based on it. Sitting Pretty is a 1948 movie, which is also about a nanny. So it's an American film. And I think that there's something very funny about it. The British funny nanny movie, whimsical, fun, lighthearted adventure, fully animated Disney segments, magic and fun for the whole family. Mary Poppins is this wonderful, patient but stern and responsible, but positive, magical figure. The kids are these cute little. They're a little bit of Ruckhausers, but they're good kids. And then the dad learns the lesson at the end about being a little silly and not being so stuck up and impersonal and caring for his kids and all that. I forgot that the mom was a suffragette. She was a British suffragette. She has a whole musical number about it. That's I totally forgot about that aspect of the movie. That's the British version, right? The American funny nanny movie, first 5 minutes, kids are little shits. The dog is a murderer. The dad, a pedophile. And the nanny, she's drunk off of her ass. She is drinking on the job and she quits. She quits in the first minute of the first thing in the film. It's very American. Everyone in this movie. So first of all, this movie is great. Sitting Pretty is great. It is honestly really funny. It is so, it caught me super off guard. I didn't really know what to expect. I was not really expecting it to be as strange as it is. Everyone in this movie is so fucking weird. It takes place in a fictional town called Hummingbird Hill. There's these two parents, played by Robert Young and Maureen O'Hara. They have these three kids who are just these three boys. One of them is a baby, but the other two, they're like 7 and 10 or something like that. And they're these little monsters and they're driving the nanny insane. They have this dog who's running around and killing cats. And it's just chaos. The nanny quits and they're like, oh God, we got to put in an ad for a new babysitter. We can't find anybody. And then the last one that they try is this girl named Ginger from the neighborhood. And it's their last one because the wife really doesn't want to, because she's like, Ginger has a big crush on you. And to be honest, I think you have a bit of a crush on her too. And the husband is like, what? She's like 16. I would never. And then they have a scene of him driving her, like he picks her up from her house and she's like completely coming on to him and trying to seduce him. And he's like, this is all right. And you're like, okay, cool. He's an ephebophile. I didn't want to be disrespectful. He's an ephebophile. And then like they fucking leave to go to the dinner party that they're supposed to go to, and he like sweeps his wife into a kiss, and she's like, ooh, why are you so romantic all of a sudden? And he said, Ginger's perfume just brings out the beast in me. So we're like, what the fuck? So they come home. Ginger has invited some of her teenager friends and they're throwing a party with dancing. Can you believe it? So they get mad. They throw her out and they're like, fuck, what do we do now? So the wife decides to put out an ad in the paper and they get a response. They say, we're willing to, we want to hire a full-time nanny. We'll provide you room and board and everything, and you'll live here as long as that's cool with you, and as long as you can handle the responsibilities of being a nanny. And someone named Lynn Belvedere replies and says, yes, I would like to, I can do that. I'm well trained in all these things. They say, great, show up. Lynn Belvedere shows up, and they're expecting I think in the letter it said I'm a student of psychology or psychiatry or something like that. Lynn Belvedere shows up. They're expecting maybe a college girl. And no, it's a 50-year-old guy. It's a 50-year-old guy who is, you're like, what is, okay. Lynn Belvedere might be a top character of all time. Lynn Belvedere is essentially the 1948 equivalent of, we eventually came around to trying to describing him as the gay autistic Grustler. That's Grinder and Hustler. He is essentially perfect. He knows everything about everything. He is always calm. He is incredibly witty. He is arrogant, but he's he always backs it up. He's like Dr. Doom. What a nerdy reference. They ask him what his profession is, and he says, I am a genius. They walk in on him on his room. He's doing headstands. He's like, it's yoga. He's always got a zinger, but he's not making a bunch of jokes guy. He just says it, and he's so right. The wife is talking about the husband, and she's like, oh, that's what I love. That's what I love about him, is he's so modest. And Lynn goes, well, he has very much to be modest about. And you're like, oh, shit. He has had every single profession in the world. He has been a beekeeper. He was an army medic in World War I. He knows everything about, what does he do? Doesn't he do, mechanics or something? He's an expert in science, all sciences, all philosophies, literature. He knows everything about, every time a situation comes up. The whole movie is a situation comes up, Lynn Belvedere solves it by some arcane knowledge he happens to have. And he's always just yeah, of course. He's like an animal trainer. He's done everything. At one point, the wife asks him, is there anything you haven't been? And he goes, yes, there is. I've never been idle. Or bored. And you're like, that's my hustler. And he just has this completely straight, he never reacts, he never has a big reaction to everything. He is just hustling. He's got this super weird vibe at first, but he's always just taking care of business. He's the best nanny. He reiterates several times, he doesn't like children. He goes, I don't like kids, but I am an expert in dealing with children. And he is he turns those boys around in the span of 2 days. There's the little baby keeps throwing cereal at him, and he fucking dumps it on his head, and he's like, he will never do it again now. He is incredible. The main conflict of the film comes from another character named something Applewood. And Applewood is essentially the town gossip. He lives at home with his elderly mother, who is also she's in a wheelchair, and she just loves gossip. She just sits with her binoculars out all day and just watches the neighborhood and snoops. And he's her little agent. So his thing is he has these lilacs that he raises. And he essentially uses that as an excuse to go around and check other people's flowers. But really, he's stealing mail. He tries to steal mail from the mailman, and the only reason he doesn't is because the main characters are walking out of the door at that second, and they're like, oh, hey, you got our mail? Thanks. And he's like, I was just about to hand this to you, actually. Save the mailman 5 seconds of walking. So basically, he's the town gossip. He's a snoop. And he is always trying to get some dirt on someone and spin it into the most apocalyptic, insane thing possible. So essentially, he's always trying to come up with something that Mr. Belvedere and the wife are they're cheating. the wife is like cheating on her husband with Belvedere. And it always gets spun into like some absurd, it goes from like Lynn Belvedere was there and the wife was there and Lynn Belvedere was drinking like gin into they were having like an orgy, a drunken orgy. That's like where it goes. And this, of course, upsets the husband because he's like, what the hell have you been doing with Lynn Belvedere? And he's always concerned about her. I think she should be more concerned about her husband trying to fuck a 16-year-old. Hey, Mr. King, Mr. Harry King, I have an anime that I think you'd really like. The first episode especially. I wasn't going to talk about it. I wasn't going to talk about it. Yeah, essentially the Sitting Pretty, I could best describe it as a kaiju battle between two guys with two different kinds of autism. The one guy is like, and one guy is good and one is evil. It is like a genuinely very funny movie. One, for how strange and unexpected it was. It is almost like such, it's almost aged better because it's old. And I don't know what the reaction to it was like when it came out, although I guess the film was well known enough to have a 80s sitcom based on it. But like the fact that it's so old, you don't expect the humor to be as funny or as out there. And I'm not going to say it's like the most incredibly surreal thing ever, but everyone is just so fucking weird. Everyone's always trying to fight each other. It's extremely American. I would say in a fun way. I would recommend it. It is genuinely a very fun time. And we walked out of the theater being like, wow, none of us expected to like it as much as we ended up. Yeah, Sitting Pretty from 1948.